So I'm standing here on a wet and miserable day outside Westminster, but it's a good day for the economy. We've had some really good news recently about jobs, really good news about economic growth. And part of that is a consequence of the banks beginning to lend more to small and medium-sized businesses, but we haven't seen anywhere near enough of that, in my view. So there are some government schemes, funding for lending, for example, the business bank, which will increase the flow of money into small and medium-sized businesses, but we need much, much more in order to make a really profound difference. So my message to the banks is trust small businesses, lend more to small businesses. I would fall short of asking the government to lean on the banks too much, because don't forget it was bad lending which caused the crisis in the first place. So there's a line to be navigated there. But nevertheless, lending to small businesses is an absolutely crucial part of a sustainable, proper recovery. We're doing well in Richmond compared with other places, and I think one of the reasons is that we've got a very business-friendly, supportive council, bending over backwards to help small businesses. We've also got the Chamber of Commerce. Now, they exist all over the country, but in our case, we have a particularly active and brilliant chamber, and I know businesses benefit enormously from signing up to it. If we were to scale back on our investments in renewables, effectively that means turning back towards dependence on fossil fuels. So in the medium and the long term, that's not going to be good for consumers. Prices are only going one direction, they're going up. So investing in renewables makes sense for the economy, it makes sense in terms of prices in the medium and long term. What a lot of people describe as costs today are in fact investments. And some of the levies that have been discussed in a negative context have been investments in energy efficiency, which pound for pound buy far more energy solution than any other type of investment. So we'd be crazy to move away from that, but I don't actually think we are. We've seen a record uptake of renewable energy in the last year, record for this country. We've never seen anything like it. And the policies beneath that have made that possible have not changed. I hope they don't. I don't think they will. I've never regarded the Airports Commission to be truly independent. If you listen to the language used by Sir Howard Davis more or less throughout this process, it's pretty much exactly the language that's been used by the lobbyists, by BAA, now called Heathrow. So I'm not surprised by the recommendations that he's made, but I don't believe that Heathrow expansion is going to happen. I don't believe it's politically deliverable. There is way too much resistance locally, and by locally I'm not just talking about Richmond, but the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people who stand to be affected if Heathrow is expanded. So I don't believe it's any more likely to happen now than it was 2, 3, 4 years ago. I think that the government's going to have to look much more long-term, much more strategically, and I think the answer, I've always believed the answer, is to encourage competition between the airports, not subsidising, using taxpayers' money, the creation of a huge monopoly on one edge of this giant city of ours. Competition has worked well with Gatwick. I think we need to encourage that. 3 airports competing in the interests of the customer has to be the way forward. But ultimately, this is about politics, and I don't believe any political party can properly deliver a Heathrow expansion. It just doesn't seem to me to be possible. Well, I've always said that if my party gives a green light for Heathrow expansion, that I would trigger a by-election. I'd be obliged to do that because it's a promise I made before the last election, and it's a promise I think that meant a lot to a lot of people. So what I'm looking for is an absolute position from my party. No ifs, no buts. That's what we heard at the last election. I want to hear that again at the next election in 18 months' time. And I want to hear the same from the Liberal Democrats as well. I want Nick Clegg to stand up and categorically rule out Heathrow expansion, which he has not yet done, but we need him to do that. We need a consensus on this issue.